Okay, well, thank you. I want to introduce our speaker then. It's a real honor to have her here today. Thea Perry is a 7th generation Kansan who grew up in Palmer, Kansas. That's in Washington County, in case you didn't know. She graduated from KU and stayed in the Lawrence area afterwards. She is running for the House of Representatives, the Kansas House of Representatives, in the 42nd District. And that includes a small part of Douglas County and a large part of Leavenworth County. She is a proud graduate of public school and a staunch supporter of public education. And while serving as president of the Parent Teachers Organization at her daughter's elementary school, she saw firsthand the severe impact of years of education funding cuts. And as a result, she began attending legislative hearings at the State House and joined the 60-mile walk to Topeka to advocate for school funding restoration. The connections she made led her to explore and advocate for other pressing issues in Kansas and taught her how to build coalitions to get things done. Thea proudly serves on several boards, including the Lawrence Community Shelter, which offers services to Douglas County residents, and the League of Women Voters. She has organized dozens of voter registration drives, candidate and community forums, donation drives, and other community gatherings. Most recently, she served as the outreach director for a nonprofit organization in Topeka, focusing on civic engagement. Thea believes we need more dialogue and less partisanship in Topeka, and she has proven that she can collaborate and lead in that direction. She is running to increase access to quality health care, invest in education for future generations, restore responsible fiscal policy, and ensure our leaders are held accountable to the people of Kansas. Please welcome Thea Perry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're all still here. Things are a little rough. We've got small hospitals and clinics around the state that are on the brink of closure right now. I learned from a representative from the League of Municipalities that we have several municipalities around the state that are excusing the utility bills of small clinics to help keep them open. 29% of kids in Kansas are living in a household where the family is experiencing the stress of medical debt, and so I think it's maybe not surprising that we have 7,500 kids in the foster care system, which is up 40% from 2005. So we could really use that $2.6 billion that we've been sending to the federal government to pay for Medicaid expansion in other states because we failed to expand it. We have among the highest tax on groceries in the entire country, and as you know, it's a regressive tax. The less you have, the harder it hits you. Here in Lawrence, at the Lawrence Community Shelter, at any given time, we have a dozen families on the waiting list, and we don't have space for them. If you are a family of 8 and you make more than $41,000 a year, you don't qualify for Medicaid in Kansas. A single person, the cutoff is $12,000 a year. I don't know anybody that can find an apartment in Lawrence for $12,000 a year. So we have this coverage gap. We have people who are the working poor who can't afford medical care, and I find it deeply concerning. In education also, we have had over $100 million in cuts in the last several years. K-12 classes are are still, the class sizes, especially in the elementary schools, are large. Ask any parent right now. Their kids are going back to school right now, and I've seen so many parents online talking about, oh my gosh, the class size is just still really large. Ask the teachers if they have the things in the classrooms that they need, and then they'll tell you no. We have been stripping away the rights of workers. Teachers still don't have due process restored, and they can be fired for any reason at any time. If you're hurt on the job, you don't have any options for treatment. You go where your employer says you go for treatment. And then, in the last legislative session, if a worker was exposed to asbestos on the job, we've now made it harder to receive compensation from their employer. My opponent voted for that. And I think that's kind of interesting that we just had that passed when our president recently loosened regulations so that we're now importing more asbestos. And they're printing the president's face on it. I don't know if you saw that in the news recently. Right? Speaking of accountability, the legislature voted against a cool-down period. So for people who are a representative in the legislature, and they want to become a lobbyist, they can do it the very next day. My opponent also voted for that. So these aren't the only important issues. I think that these just kind of represent the failure of a Republican-led government that is not centered on the people of Kansas and their fundamental needs when they're crafting policies and laws. So when I was thinking about what to say to all of you today, it occurred to me that my motivation, or any candidate's motivation, is just as important as policy issues. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I have the passion that I do to work on some of these things. As Kurt said, I'm from Palmer. It's a tiny little town. The last census, I think there were 111 people that lived there. It was kind of an idyllic place to grow up. We had a huge garden. We had freedom to wander around. And my parents sort of had dreams of homesteading and making their own yogurt, and we canned everything. It was really lovely. My dad was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and even though he wasn't that kind of doctor, he commuted a long way to go to work. We got a lot of house calls and knocks on the door because the closest hospital was a pretty far way away, and so if somebody wasn't going to make it to the hospital on time to have a baby, or I remember there was somebody once that had a stroke at the cafe. Farmers would come over because they smashed their fingers, and I remember once my dad had to disinfect a drill bit to relieve the pressure. That was gross. And one time my brothers, like I said, we canned everything. We grew so much of our own food. My brother, when he was about 5, smashed 2 jars of tomatoes together and cut his finger, and I remember sitting and reading to him at the kitchen table while my dad stitched up his finger because we knew driving him in and out of the hospital was going to be way more stressful than if we just had to take care of it at home. So I think that what I learned watching all of that was that we take care of each other because we should. And I'll tell you a secret, my dad's a Republican. But there's a difference between what we say our politics are and what we actually do when we're needed by the people in our community. And that gives me a tremendous amount of hope because things are so divisive right now. But I know we actually do take care of each other when we're faced with it. So that kind of experience growing up with all that gave me a foundation for concern about access to medical care because I saw it all the time growing up. So to jump forward in time a little bit, last fall I went to DC to advocate to try to save the Affordable Care Act. We also, while I was there, I met with Senator Moran with a group of dreamers that I knew from Western Kansas, and that was really powerful to sit down in his office and talk with him. Listen to them share their stories of trying to get an education and trying to become citizens. And they spent a lot of time, it was kind of interesting, this is a little bit of a tangent, but they were trying to pin him down on policy issues, and he was wiggling out of it, because he knows very well how to do that. And so finally I just said, they are working so hard. Do you want them to stay in Kansas? And he said yes. And I think sometimes we have to do that. We have to stop thinking so much about specific policy and just like get down to the bones of like, what do we actually want to do, and have that be the starting point. And I think when you do that, people become a lot more real when you're talking to them. And anyway, so then in January this year, I helped plan the second Women's March in Topeka because I wanted to help promote women who are running for office. So we had Laura Kelly come and speak, and Marcy Francisco, and Sharice Davids. And I'm so excited that they're doing so well. At that point, I had no plans to run myself, and so I had a little bit of time where I could speak, and I actually yielded that time to my daughter, Lida, who was 6 at the time, and she did an amazing job. She got up and she wrote her own speech, and she was not nervous. I was very nervous, and she got a picture on the front page of the paper. I was so proud of her. And then 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I spent the spring in between 6 surgeries hobbling around the state house and talking to legislators and the governor about access to health care, attending committee meetings. Because I had insurance. It was caught really early. I'm happy to report I am okay now. I don't have any concerns about my health, but that's not true of all of us. I went to committee hearings in the last couple of years and listened to grandmothers talk about how they're raising their grandchildren because their own children had passed away from things that could have been treatable had they had insurance to be able to go in and do that, but they didn't. So we know that it happens. We know that we're losing people because they don't have health insurance. So during this last legislative session, I paid a lot of attention to what my own representative was doing, and he twice voted against amendments that would have put Medicaid expansion on the floor to be even debated, to even talk about it. I think that over 70% of Kansas wants Medicaid to be expanded, but the Republican leadership doesn't even want to have a debate about it on the floor. So when my opponent voted against even having a debate about it, I got really mad, as you can imagine. And then, shortly before the end of the session, my opponent also voted to legalize discrimination in the state of Kansas. And the next day, I told my husband, I think I have to run for office. So this was about 3 days after my last surgery, and I think he thought maybe I just needed to lay off the pain meds. But we had a lot of conversations, and we decided it was the right thing to do. And I'm running now because we are going to expand Medicaid. It will bring new jobs to the state, it will save hospitals, and it will save lives. We are going to eliminate the grocery tax. With the changing climate and the tariff situation, I think we need to have more engagement with our farmers. I would like personally to see more support for new farmers and also farmers that are growing unsubsidized crops. It's August in Kansas, and you go to the grocery store, and 80% of the tomatoes are from 500 miles away. It doesn't make sense. We have great things right here that we can be supporting our farmers and having more partnerships so that we're not importing so much food when we live in this amazing breadbasket right here. We are going to fully and constitutionally fund K-12 education, and we're going to restore higher education funding. And more than just policy, like I want to see Democrats take back the narrative. We talk about the rural-urban divide, and Kurt and I have talked about this quite a bit, that I think in a lot of ways, I think that's sort of used for partisan means. We all have the same needs. We all need affordable housing. It's a problem in both rural and urban areas, and there are many, we all need health care. There's also, I think, part of that narrative is that if you're rural, you're less informed or you have different values. Well, I'm rural, and my values are we take care of each other, equality and justice for all, and that the workforce deserves a safe workplace and a fair wage. So how we do it is really simple, right? I think we know how to do it. We have to elect more Democrats. So 2 years ago, we made some progress. We elected a lot more Democrats, and we had a whole bunch of moderate Republicans, primary, more conservative incumbents. And the Tuesday before last, unfortunately, we had, I think 8 or 9, maybe 10 Republicans lose their primaries to more conservative opponents. And that kind of informal moderate caucus is basically gone. That makes our job that much harder, and it makes it that much more critical that we elect Democrats this November. The executive branch races, of course, they're very, very important. But Laura and Marcy and Brian, they're going to need a supportive legislature. So we have lots of local incumbent seats that are safe, which is great. They don't have an opponent in November, but we also have lots of folks running in the area. George Hanna, myself, Sarah Coates, Stuart Sweeney, if you haven't met him. He is running against Willie Dove, the man that likes to leave his gun laying around the steakhouse. Stuart is fantastic. He's a kind man. He's a farmer and a veteran. And he is running to represent kind of Baser, DeSoto area. Mike Amix. Yeah. And then, of course, Janet Wall is here and for the Board of Education. But the candidates can't do it alone. So there's 3 things that from a candidate perspective I would like to ask of you. One is talk to your friends and family that live in these districts about the election, about the people that I've listed, if those people are running in those areas. Go find all of our Facebook pages and like them, and then invite the people that you know that live in those districts to like those pages and help us engage with the people that are there that we need to vote for us. Also, if you have time, of course we need you volunteering with the county party, but also volunteering with campaigns directly. There is nothing more effective than direct voter contact. We know it's the most important thing that we do as candidates, knocking on doors and making phone calls. So, and my district is huge. It's most of rural and incorporated Leavenworth County. If you don't want to talk to people directly, that's okay. We also need poll watchers. We need people who are able to deliver yard signs. There's all kinds of things that we can find for you to do if you want to help. And lastly, we have to pay for a lot of stuff. Yard signs are expensive, walk cards. I'm really proud that my donations come from individuals and a couple of labor unions, but 80% of my opponents' fundraising is from PACs and special interest groups, and that's what we're up against. So any support helps and is appreciated. So lots of us candidates have districts that cross county lines, and so campaigns are coordinating multiple county parties rather, and so if you can directly volunteer and sign up to help with campaigns, it's really, really helpful for us to help coordinate. And please keep up the energy and don't get discouraged by setbacks and by seeing Chris Kobach's face on the news. I know it's hard, but I believe the people of Kansas are capable and a whole lot stronger than anything that they can throw at us, and so I think we're going to win.